Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Getting a job at Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon is something which a lot of youngsters currently dream about. So, in today's video, we have someone who currently works at Microsoft. He has over 6 years of experience at Microsoft as a senior software engineer. He will be sharing valuable tips on how to get a job at these companies, how to prepare for interviews, and how to grow your career as a software engineer in these companies. And he'll also share his viewpoint on different coding languages required to grow in the software engineering field. So, without further ado, let's welcome Pratik Bhattacharya. So, Pratik, thank you for taking out your time for this video. So, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and about your work experience at Microsoft?
So my journey with Microsoft it started about in 2013 summers. So I did my internship when I was in my pre-final years at Microsoft in an organization called Supply Chain, MSCIS. It was used to be called at that time. So it was a 2 months of internship, after which I got an offer to join as a full-time employee, which I did sometime in the mid of June in 2014. So it's been like as a full-time employee, I've been in Microsoft for about 6 years and a few months. So it has been a pretty good journey. So currently, if I have to, just briefly describe my job profile about the things that I do. So majorly, I build applications for the cloud. So I work in a division called Professional Services, which is part of the core strategy, engineering, and operations division of Microsoft. So out there, mostly we are responsible for building a lot of apps, which kind of drives Microsoft's business. So my main role is out there building web applications and other form of like applications which can be deployed on the cloud. And I'm responsible for ensuring those applications run end to end fine. Look at the functional features. Look at and also it's more like a DevOps kind of a role where you get to not only about designing and building the applications, but also you need to take care of maintaining those applications. Look at some of the operational aspects of it. So yeah, overall, that's kind of that's kind of a very brief role that I play at Microsoft right now.
Now, a lot of youngsters, a lot of software engineers, they currently dream about working in top companies like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, or the commonly known term as FANG. So, how would you suggest one should prepare themselves for it?
So it is true that there is obviously like everyone aspires to be a part of this fan group. That's a very trendy thing that is going on out there. And the way to approach it, BC, one thing to understand is that when you're interviewing to any company, and it doesn't have to always be on the FANG, it can be any other companies as well. When you're interviewing for a company and you're a fresher, that is, you do not have a lot of years of experience, or even if you have a years of experience, but it is less, like you have got 2 or 3 years of experience. That is, you're applying for a pretty junior position, one of the starter positions out there. The only thing that the company and the interviewers have at their hand to judge your skills, to judge your problem solving skills, is algorithm and data structures. Those are the two major things. Now, I know that there are a lot of other fields that you have in computer science, like database, networking, operating systems, and everything. But generally, the basic way and the most commonly used way, and even if you are applying for one of those top tier companies in FANG or any other top tier one companies, they do put a lot of emphasis on your data structures and algorithm skills to understand that how do you approach problem solving. So what I would suggest to freshers is that yeah, you need to brush up your data structures and algorithm skills. Practice more into about data structures. Practice more algorithms. Look at what are the and there are multiple websites and books which are available over the internet. And I'm talking about free resources. I'm not even talking about some paid resources and stuff like that. There are paid resources like if you can afford that. If you want to get a tutored guidance into stuff like that, there are organizations which over the internet or which over some other mediums they will provide you courses and everything. But even there are a lot of free courses out there, a lot of free stuff out there over the internet, which will allow you to practice and sharpen your data structures and algorithm skills. It is all about problem solving. Like when any company is trying to hire a fresher, they are trying to gauge whether this person, once that person is inside the corporate world, and we throw a problem at this person, can this person solve that problem or not? That is what every company is looking for. How good are your problem solving skills? And since you're a fresher and you do not have much years of experience out there, it is difficult, or we cannot really judge a fresher based on any other skills other than data structures and algorithm, which is kind of common to everyone. So for getting into any top tier companies, I would suggest that, yeah, go ahead, practice your data structures and algorithms. Also practice your basic computer science thing like object oriented programming and stuff like that. So that's all that you can do, and also have clarity and have a clear mind. Like, don't get too anxious that, hey, if I'm not getting into this company, then probably my career is ruined. Nothing like that, man. This is a software industry. I've literally seen people who have changing companies over a year span. Year is actually too long. There are people who have changed over 6 months as well. So if you're not getting into your dream company, company may be ABC, whatever it is. I don't want to name any company out here. But if you're not getting into the dream company at the first shot, don't lose hope. It is all right. That's fine. Just get into the software industry, understand how the software industry works, see it from the inside, and then try change your company. Look for other opportunities if this opportunity is not working for you. So yeah, that's that's all I would say.
Now, the IT field is a very broad field. So, what are the other career paths which are available?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question, and this is something where I've seen a lot of confusion, especially among freshers who thinks that development is the only way to get into an IT industry, which is actually not, which is actually incorrect. There are multiple ventures which are available to you, multiple ways, and we look at multiple personas once you're going into a software industry. Development and engineering is one of them. You have got quality assurance, that is, earlier it used to be known as testing, so that QA line, you can go into that. You have got project management. Now, project management, I would say that you may need some other skills other than development as well. So people who are into management line, like people who are doing MBAs and stuff like that, even they can apply for project management at an IT industry. Then you have got data science. Now, data science for the last 10, 15 years, that has been a very lucrative field for a lot of people, because it's all about data. Like, if you look into the current statistics, we are kind of, the internet is kind of spitting some hundreds of terabytes of data per day, and we need people who can analyze this data, who can extract this data. There are other fields like beta testing, fields like, especially if you're good in UX, that is, user experience. If you have got skills like Photoshop and other things, you can look at UX designing and UX research as well. Then there is a research field as well, where people who are conducting research, they can also get into it. So there are multiple fields and multiple ventures which are available to get into the IT industry. Development and engineering is only one of them, but kind of like what happens is, like, people think that is the only way to get into the software industry. That is wrong. It depends upon your passion, depends on what you're really passionate about. There are multiple things open for you. If you're passionate about statistics, if you're passionate about maths, probably data science is a better line for you. So yeah, there are multiple lines out there which are open, and once you get into an industry, also you can change your role anytime. You get experience for 2 3 years, and you realize that it is better for me to continue in a managerial position, not into an individual contributor. You're welcome to do that as well in the industry. So there are multiple things which are open in the industry once you just get into it, and also there are multiple ways to get into the industry as well.
Now, there are so many different coding languages. Which are the few coding languages which you would suggest one should prepare themselves with for interviewing with top companies?
Great question, and this is my very personal opinion. This opinion may vary from people to people, but if you ask me, especially for youngsters, especially for freshers who are looking into developing their skills, I would say it doesn't matter which coding language you use. See, if you look into the industry today, there are the amount of coding languages and frameworks which are available a lot. Like, you have got C Sharp, you have got JavaScript, you have got Java, you have got Ruby on Rails, you have got Python, you have got so many languages, so many frameworks, and everything, so many databases as well. Like, there are so many things out there that it is difficult, to say that which company, like the top companies, uses this. It doesn't happen like that. Like, it is not set that these companies are going to use only this and this companies use only this. That doesn't happen. So what my advice to freshers would be, do not look into the coding language. Look into the skills and the concept that you're building out of it. Like, I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say you're good in Java, and in Java is, as people will be knowing, it is an object-oriented programming language. C Sharp, C++, these are also object-oriented programming language. And if you are told tomorrow that, hey, this company that you are joining, it doesn't uses Java, rather it is using C Sharp. If your concepts of this object-oriented programming is clear, that is, you know what is a class, what is an object, what is an abstract class, how is an object, how are two objects related to each other, like association, composition, and stuff like that. If you're clear about the concepts, adopting a programming language doesn't take so much time. And I'm speaking this from my personal experience. In my school, it was all Java. I learned Java. When I went into my college, I had to shift to C, C++. When I joined Microsoft, it was JavaScript and C Sharp. So I've been changing programming language almost at every step of my life, like in school, in college, in company. And tomorrow, if I decide to go to some other company, they may have a different programming language. So don't be afraid of a particular programming language or a particular framework. Just ensure that you are clear of the concepts. And the same goes even for frameworks out there. Like, for example, if you are a full stack developer or if you're a web developer and you want to develop web applications, there are so many ventures, there are so many frameworks where how you can build a web application. But at the end of the day, the basic thing is you need to know the concepts of a web application. Like, what is a web API? What is a MVC design pattern? How does a web application talks to another web application? How does a front-end application talks to a back-end application? These are all concepts. These are, and every programming language or every framework has some certain syntaxes of how you can build it. Learning syntax is never a problem if you know what is the right question to ask. Like, see, like no company out there is going to restrict you into saying, boss, you cannot use any search engine like Google or Bing to search for a problem. But you need to know what to type. That is what I always say. You need to know what is the right question you need to ask. And if you don't know what is the right question you need to ask, then you will be in trouble. Like, for example, I'll give you a very soft example to just finish this particular point. Like, for example, you know how to build web APIs in Java. Let's say using Spring or something like that, you know, or Scala or something like that. You know how to build web APIs in Java and you know everything about a web API. Suddenly you do a company shift and they tell you that you need to build web APIs not in Java, but using ASP.NET. So the concepts remain the same. Web API, HTTP, REST, their concepts remain the same. All you now need to know is that how those concepts which have been using in a different framework, how does this concept relate or translate into this new framework? Ask those questions. Ask your mentor those questions. Google those questions. Bing those questions. See what are the answers to those questions and just apply it. But if your concepts itself are not clear, then that's a problem. So for all freshers out there, if you are learning on data structures and algorithm on a particular language, stick to that language. No need to diversify your language stack and say that I know C, C++, C Sharp, Java, JavaScript, everything. That's fine. But if you know data structures and algorithm in one language, applying that same thing in a different language is not a big deal. And even with interviewers, when we go and interview freshers, we do not expect them to know all the languages, or we do not expect them to know the language that our company is using. We are clear about that. We know that this person may not be, or this fresher may not be knowing that. So we ask them to solve a problem in a generic language, in any language that they know. We are just interested in knowing can this person solve this problem or not? What language they're using, it is immaterial.
Now, a lot of youngsters or a lot of fresh software engineers, they often tend to be confused between full stack development and data science. So, what is the difference between these two and how should one prepare for it?
That's a good question. So, see, full stack development means actually building software and tools. Like you're building a web application, or you're building a mobile application, or you're building a desktop application. It's about building softwares that actual end users they can use and they can solve certain problems. That is, you're either automating it or you're giving them some new capabilities which will help them to do their work better. That's what software development, or that's what full stack development comes into the picture. Data science comes next, and data science is actually working on the data that is being spitted by these applications and these tools that you are using. Like, for example, let's take an example of a very popular site like, let's say, Facebook. So there is one section of engineers who are actually building and improving that Facebook site. That is when you go to, let's say, facebook.com, you go to the login page, or you go to the post page, or you send messages to people. So people are working on improving that, or people are working on building that, actually building that core application out there, that core website out there. And now there is another section which is looking into the data, like the user behavior. Like this particular user is interested in seeing posts of probably of this particular category. So what they're going to do is they're going to understand the user behavior, and then they're going to say that, okay, since this user is more interested in a post of a particular kind, let's try to script other users in Facebook, and let's connect these users to those users, people who are like-minded. Probably means, again, like, I'm just giving examples out there. That is not how Facebook works. So don't take this as a technical session or something like that. But so there are these two sections of these people. One section of the people who's interested or who's building the tools and the softwares that the end users are using, and there is another section of these engineers, of these people who are analyzing the data that has been spitted by the software. So if you want to go into the data science line, data science mainly is mathematics. It is mathematics and statistics. There are all these mathematical models which are actually applied on a large scale data. And since computing power has improved a lot over the last few decades, you can actually apply these mathematical models on a huge, big set of data. Like the reason why data science was not such a a roaring field since 80s or 90s was because we were missing that computing power. With computing power coming into the picture, data science has become a very hot topic. It is something which is which can actually do wonders. So if you want to go into the data science line, mathematics is your best friend. Like, you need to be good in statistics. You need to understand the statistical models that are being used behind those data science. Along with it, if you do have good hold on programming languages such as Python, or there is a language called R, it is an added bonus, because generally Python was one of those programming languages which was kind of built for data science, data scientists. But that was, again, like, there are a lot of other languages, like there is like ML.NET, JavaScript, R. These are also languages which can be used. But if you know a little bit of programming, that is, you have some ideas about programming, and you're good in statistics, and you want to go in a mathematical line, then data science is a good line for you. For full stack development, it is, again, as I said, for freshers, it is going to be data structures and algorithms that you need to be good at. Along with it, what I would suggest is try to build your skills in any one of the full stack frameworks that you have out there. Like, it can be the LAMP framework, or it can be the Mean stack. So these are all stacks, actually. Like, Mean means Mongo, Ember, Angular, and Node. So like this, take any of those full stacks out there, one of the stacks that you have out there, and try to do some basic programming, or try to understand the basic concepts out there. It's going to be an added advantage for you when you're actually sitting for an interview.
Now, based on your experience, how should a fresh software engineer frame their CV when it comes to companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook?
One thing that you should mention on now when it comes to a fresher, that about your CVs, about your CV. One thing is, you need to realize that your interviewer, whoever you are giving your CV to it, knows that you are a fresher. So if you think that your CV doesn't have things like I know Node, I know Java, I know this, that if you think that your CV doesn't contain that 5 different frameworks or 10 different languages, you're lacking somewhere. That is wrong. That's a misconception. When a company is there to hire freshers, they have a certain sort of mindset. They know that this guy doesn't have any corporate experience, so the company will have to train this person. So it's okay if you don't have a lot of fancy stuff that is out there on your CV. Just be very honest as to what are the things you know and how much of knowledge you have there. So tell the CV that I do have data structures and algorithm skills, and I know only C and C++, let's say. If you don't know Java, or if you don't know C Sharp, you don't need to mention it on your CV. Plus, you don't need to panic about it. Like, your friend has got a CV which has got, let's say, 5 different programming languages, and you're going into programming languages. That is not a disadvantage if you're a fresher. That's something that you need to understand there. That as a fresher, you are required to solve a particular problem and not know so many, domain specific things. And the second thing that I would like to mention in the CVs, and this is something which I've personally seen a lot of people doing it in their CVs when I've hired freshers or when I've interviewed freshers, that they tend to mention a lot of academic projects, like very, very heavy terms are used. Like we build a machine learning model to do image detection. We build this thing to do that. Like, see, it is okay to mention academic projects, but be very, very, very careful that if you're mentioning something, no matter how small it is, end to end about it. I know there are people who have given me CVs, freshers or very few years of experience, which contains things like, I have built REST-based web APIs. And I asked them two questions about REST. Okay, what is the difference between HTTP post and HTTP get? They will say, I did not use the other, but I use the latter. Like, dude, don't do things like that. If you are mentioning something on your CV, even if if it's an academic project or if it was a personal project, ensure you know end to end about it. And one thing about projects, especially, that if you have built any project, or especially let's say you build a hosted a website or something like that, try to give a link of that particular thing on your CV so that the interviewer can play with it, can understand that you are not actually bluffing or anything, but rather you have actually built something where the interviewer can go and see something about it. And there was one CV which I had seen which really impressed me a lot, where this person had done an academic project, and this person had created a video, actually this person a video about the project, that to as to what the project was all about, and added that link to that project on the CV. So those are also the smart things that you can do. But one thing that when it comes to CV, which I like to mention, and I like to give really good emphasis on it, is do not mention anything that you don't know about it, especially for freshers. Because if the interviewer starts grilling about it, if the interviewer asks a question about it and you are unable to answer it, that creates a negative impression. That creates a huge negative impression. Whatever you're writing on the CV, ensure you will be able to explain every little details of it to the interviewer when they are asked. And that's how a lot of interview questions starts also. Like if you say in your CV that I did internship in ABC company and I built this, they will ask about the architecture of that. So ensure you know that what you have built, what was the architecture of it, how it works, and if time comes, you can explain everything about it to an interviewer. So that's what I would say about CV, especially for freshers.
So, in terms of a role of a software engineer, what are their main KPIs?
So what I generally would like to tell this to people, like people who are currently been working as software engineers, who are or maybe who are planning or aspiring to be software engineers, is that when you're building software, any modern software, you need to ensure that it adds value. That it is adding value to the business, or it is adding value to the customer. And one generic KPI, and different companies may call it different things. But the most generic thing that as a software engineer you need to do is you need to ensure that you are adding value to either your customers or to the business or to whoever your stakeholders are. Your stakeholders can be different based on the organization structures and everything. So that is one thing which is a key performance indicator for every software engineer out there. And if at any point of time, and this is to engineers who are there in the industry for very few years or something like that, if you find yourself that you're trying to solve a problem which is not really adding value to you, what your core priorities are, that is what your core business is supposed to do, at that point of time you should really have that conversation with your manager. Start talking to your manager as to, and try to understand the role that you're playing and have clarity on it. And that's the second thing that I always tell people, that you need to have clarity. You need to have clarity on the role your organization plays, and what kind of role that you are playing, and whether the role that you're playing, you're actually helping your organization grow or not. If you're not doing that, then it is time to take a step back, rethink as to what you're doing, and probably deliver on that. So that would be a most generic KPIs. The other things obviously that we look at is once you're inside corporate, you need to look into stuff like whether whatever application you're building, whatever code you're writing, those needs to be maintainable. Those needs to be clean. They need to be technically superior. So those are things I've seen a lot of people, they're not taking it into consideration, because especially I'm talking about new software engineers, where it is a lot about just building something for the sake of building it, but don't try to approach it like that way, because one of the KPIs or one of the indicators that shows that you are a good software engineer and you're not just a regular software engineer out there is if you take care of building an application which can be not only used by other people, but if someone else wants to contribute to the code base, or someone else wants to you want to partner with someone, they should also be happy into looking into your code. There are applications out there. I'm not joking out there. It is not only about Microsoft, but I've seen this happening other places also. Like people see the application code base and they're like, oh my god, I can't work on something like this. It's a mess. So generally, and this is a joke out there that you have in the it's an ongoing joke for a very long time. I had heard it in one of these YouTube videos. Who says when you're writing code, you should write code thinking that the next person who's going to maintain your code is a violent psychopath who knows where you live. Don't anger the next person who's going to see your code. So that's a very generic way of putting it out there. But yeah, I think as KPIs, I think those are the two things that I would mainly put pressure on.